Live from the heart of Baylor Bear Country, the most comprehensive pregame coverage. This is Game Day Live, powered by Sikkim 365 and KWTX News 10.
And good morning on this Saturday as we hit the middle of October. A couple of weekends left in the college football season this month. And then, of course, you get into a lot of the rivalry and the games that lead towards possibly winning or playing for a conference championship. Baylor, meanwhile, today at Nippert Stadium in Cincinnati against Cincinnati. Two teams that are 2-4, two teams that are not playing well, and they play today. We're going to hear from Darby Brown in a moment. We'll also hear from Dave Aranda, and former Baylor defensive coordinator Phil Bennett discusses what he's seen watching Baylor so far. Here are the standings with Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina here with me. The standings in the Big 12, Oklahoma at the top. Iowa State has turned the corner. Baylor will host them next Saturday for homecoming. Then you have a pack at 2-1 with Oklahoma State, Texas, K-State, and West Virginia. Kansas and TCU, Texas Tech in the middle. And then Brigham Young, BYU, Houston, also Baylor, UCF, and Cincinnati. We're going to hit Darby Brown right off the top. Darby, thanks for your time from Nippert Stadium, live on KWTX, and your thoughts. And, well, I mean, eventually we keep asking, are they going to play better? Are they going to play better, Baylor, we're talking about?
You know, they have to at this point, right? I know when you start to look at, are they going to be able to make a bowl game? This is a game that they have to win. As you mentioned, both teams struggling. Bears have to kind of take advantage of a Cincinnati team that is having a down year as well and come out with a win today. It feels like a must win. So I think they have to play better. Now, as to what we'll see, I don't know. I don't know how much they can really work on and really change throughout the season. But coming off of a bye, you'd like to think that that was a time where they could tweak a little things to get something going here today.
Yeah, Darby, this is kind of an interesting game. Both these teams are struggling mightily right now. Baylor sees this as a get-right game, but then so does Cincinnati as well. I think this one could get weird.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, walking in, there's a sign up here that says College Football Playoff 2021, and it just reminded me that, wow, both teams were really near the top in 2021, and now here we are, both teams really struggling. So this fan base doesn't like it either, especially going 0-4 to start off in the Big 12. The team doesn't like it either. So both teams, yeah, it's a must win. They're both hungry for it. And, it's a little bit of an ugly game, an ugly matchup. So I would agree with you, Paul. It could be an ugly game, but somebody's going to win.
Darby, not sure if you've ever been to Cincinnati before. I think I saw on Twitter that you were trying some Skyline chili, but just your initial impressions of Nippert Stadium and just any kind of buzz you felt around town.
Yeah, no, I've never been here before, and it's a cool town. The weather feels very fall-like. The leaves are changing here. Someone told me we're actually a little bit too late for that, but feels good to be in some fall weather. The stadium is cool. You can tell that it's very old, very historic. It's kind of down below the ground, and so that's kind of interesting right off of the side of downtown here in Cincinnati. And there's definitely a lot of buzz around here. I know a lot of people have been talking about the billboards that Baylor put up in Cincinnati. I don't know if you guys saw that, but they put up a billboard that said, "Welcome to the Big 12." And at least on Twitter, everyone thought that was a great gesture. And so anyways, there's definitely a lot of buzz around, the area, and they're ready for another good football game.
Baylor also put a billboard up in Orlando, and they won that game. So maybe that's a good sign. Darby, thank you for your time. I'm glad it's not like already into a bad weather week in Cincinnati, although it's still just October. We'll come back with Darby again from KWTX. We're on KWTX with Game Day Live. She'll join us again later on in the show. Now, she is at Nippert Stadium. We're going to go through the history of Nippert Stadium. It opened up in 1901. It is the fourth oldest playing site in college football. It is the fifth oldest stadium in college football. It has tremendous history. They renovated it. The first part was in 1924. It is known as a very loud and difficult place to play, very cozy for the fans, and right on top of the opponents too.
Yeah, and we'll see how fired up those fans are given their struggles. Like I said, this is two teams that are in the same they're in the same boat.
Atmosphere?
Yeah.
Not very high atmosphere.
Up the same creek without the same paddle. Like they're right now, that's where they are. So we'll see. I think that it's interesting. Baylor, won one game at home in the last year, and that was against Long Island. And again, it was a very uninspiring performance. The other game they've won in the last year has been on the road against UCF, and in a spectacular fashion. So maybe being on the road will help them. I don't know. I had a really tough time getting a read on this game this week.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard some of the talk about maybe this team plays better on the road, but it's based off the fact they played one game on the road. Yeah. And they just so happened to win because they played a great fourth quarter, and that was the only reason as to why, because they were not good for 3 quarters. So we'll know today. We'll see if there is something to them having a little bit more of a share of the luck or share of the success that they've been so searching for whenever they hit the road. Maybe there is something to that. I don't know why they wouldn't be able to take care of business at home the way that they haven't been able to. But, yeah, maybe they just need to get out of McLean Stadium and go play somewhere else and clear their minds and play in front of a hostile crowd. Hopefully for their case that is the case because if they go out there today and they lay an egg, then – I mean, I just don't know where you turn to the rest of the way and think, oh, well, maybe this will be the case or maybe that'll be the case or no. So I think today is a very important showing for them.
Yeah, especially when you come off an off week. It's not a bye week because a bye week means you advance like in a tournament, but it's known as a bye week, an off week. And do they tweak much? I saw where Grayson had a story inside the forums of Sikkim365.com, but again, we've heard all of that. It's like Craig has said a couple of times now in recent weeks. It's like, are you taking crazy pills? Because you don't see much different when it comes to what you see on offense or how they start a game or what the defense cannot stop, even though they had the big play that turned everything around with Caden Jenkins down in Orlando. Here are the games today in the Big 12. There are 6 games today, starting with UCF at what is a red-hot Oklahoma. They're coming off the off week. That game was 11 o'clock this morning on ABC. The Baylor game at Cincinnati at Nippert Stadium is at ESPN+. Oklahoma State at 2:30. They've turned the corner. Iowa State has turned the corner off this week. Oklahoma State plays in West Virginia and Morgantown after their disastrous ending against Houston. Texas at Houston today in a game that's much anticipated, but that thing could get out of hand. Texas Tech at BYU in a night game at Provo, and TCU Kansas State could be one of those elimination games for 2 teams that had big wins last weekend.
Yeah, I had Joseph Duarte on the show yesterday, and he said that the goal for Houston this week is to be able to play free and easy. Now, that's not Dana Holgerson's normal MO, as you guys know, is free and easy when it comes to the game. But if any time you can, no one expects anything of you. You just had a huge comeback win. Your quarterback played the best he's probably ever played in his life in the second half. So if you can roll through that, maybe you can scare Texas early and get them into maybe a funk. But that's going to be tough to do because the talent, if this was like the scales here, Houston would be way up here as Texas weighs that down because they have way, way more talent.
Yeah, I mean, the spread's like 3+ touchdowns for a reason. The only reason this game has intrigue is because Houston won on a Hail Mary against West Virginia and because it's in Houston. I mean, other than that, there's really nothing, really exciting about this game. It's an old Southwest Conference matchup, and that's cool. And maybe that provides a little bit of, magic down there in H-Town. But, yeah, I mean, it's a one-time only event because they'll never probably host Texas at that stadium again as conference opponents. They certainly will never do it again as Big 12 opponents. So that's cool, and maybe that creates some magic where there's a little bit of uniqueness today. But on paper, yeah, this is 2 very different teams, and one doesn't have any business, contending with the other. So good luck to Houston. I hope they make it interesting. West Virginia and Oklahoma State is a very interesting game for the standings and creating a little bit of separation between those two. West Virginia, coming off that Hail Mary loss, man, had they won that game, they'd be sitting really good right now. And now you look at it and, if they lose another game right after that, all of a sudden it just completely flips the whole script. So they need this one at home. But Oklahoma State's also playing really well. So that one's very intriguing, as is TCU and Kansas State later on tonight. Oklahoma, I'll be interested to see how UCF looks after the bye week and after taking a bunch of lumps and see if they can at least be competitive. And the whole Dylan Gabriel, Jeff Lebby crossover storyline, provides some interest there. Then Texas Tech BYU is really interesting. It's not like your typical late-night Provo game, where it's like one of the only games still on and, it's rocking out there. It'll be 6 o'clock kickoff, so that's not crazy. But it'll still be a night game, and they need wins too. I think BYU's on the verge of maybe slipping a little bit if they start to, pile up losses for the second week in a row. And then for Texas Tech, same thing. They're in a spot where at 2-2, they were just on the other side of 500 a couple weeks ago, beating Baylor, and then they lose badly to K-State. Now, a big opportunity here because if they don't win this game, they're 3-5. And their bowl hopes, same with BYU, are starting to look a little flimsy if they lose a second game. But BYU does have at least 4 wins at this point. So, some interesting contests around the league.
Yeah, there's kind of elimination games at different levels of the Big 12. For example, the TCU-Kansas State game, you're jumping right back in the middle of it. You put yourself in position. Oklahoma State, if they win, they continue that. West Virginia, despite the loss to Houston, well, maybe they're at least involved, but most likely not. But then you're talking about Texas Tech. You're right. Go to 3-5 if you don't win, and now you have to wonder because they're playing at Texas. We know what that's going to mean down in Austin. There's some bad blood there. So, and then the Baylor-Cincinnati is more of a bowl game berth elimination. Doesn't mean if you win, you're going to get one, but you lose, you're 2-5, and you're pretty much up against it, which you are already anyway. All right, when we come back, we're going to look at some history of Cincinnati football. Scott Satterfield, their head coach. We'll also hear from Dave Aranda, Phil Bennett, J.J. Joe. This is 365 Sports and KWTX and Game Day Live.
Game Day Live, sponsored locally by TFNB, your bank for life, Central Texas Plumbing Solutions, and Centex Roof Systems.
Waco is the heart of Texas, centrally located and home to industry-leading distribution centers like Amazon, Walmart, and Tractor Supply. From Waco, it's easy to get anywhere you want to go. And at Jeff Hunter Toyota, we have the perfect vehicle to get you there, like the new Toyota Tundra, Toyota RAV4, Highlander, and Tacoma. Go where you want to go in a new Toyota. Find yours today at Jeff Hunter Toyota. Toyota quality, Waco values.
So before I came to Dr. Thrasher, my teeth were awful. They were ugly. They were yellow. They just looked nasty. I came here and Dr. Thrasher fixed them. They're gorgeous. I love to smile in my pictures and show them off to everybody. I just love them.
Well, I feel terrific. I mean, it's what I live for in dentistry, is to be able to have an impact on somebody's life, to make their life better.
Hi, I'm John Proctor with Home Place Interiors. Nothing compares to the quality of an area rug to finish your house. Come by and save 50% on all in-stock and special order rugs. Come by Home Place Interiors, where quality is affordable.
For all your flooring needs, visit Home Place Interiors at 523 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
All right, Game Day Live takes you up until 10:30. Cincinnati and Baylor will play at 11 o'clock in that game, probably as it deserves to be on ESPN Plus, because someone's going to have to play a game on ESPN Plus this weekend in the Big 12 and both the 2 and 4.
Yeah, they weren't getting ABC.
No, or even Fox. So here is the schedule of what we call bangers. 2 ranked teams playing each other this week in the top 25, including the game that will start at 11 o'clock. Penn State, James Franklin, his record against Ohio State and Michigan combined, which, of course, most people's record against them combined is not very good, playing in the Horseshoe against Ohio State. Tennessee at Alabama. And I don't know. Who knows what might happen? Alabama slowly but surely kind of tweaking who they were, but still, they're just not who you think they are or were, and that's okay. Nick Saban and his team trying to get them back on track after the loss to Texas, and they've won since then. Duke at Florida State, Seminoles look so good across the board. And Utah against Caleb Williams and USC, a 7 o'clock game tonight.
Right. Bryson Barnes going to get the start in that one for Utah. This one's probably a lot different if Cam Rising is there. And I continue to be bummed out that he got hurt in the Rose Bowl because Utah's been really good. They've only lost one game. Their defense is really, really amazingly tough. But for whatever reason, the other two quarterbacks, maybe it's just because they're not that good, but they cannot even get half of their offense going like it could with Cam Rising. So to be able to see what they could really do with Cam Rising this year would have been really interesting. But he's just not going to be there.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. I hate that anybody even got their hopes up, and I know we did. There was thoughts, hey, could he play in the Baylor game?
Yep.
And I guess that was never really that legitimate because it's been a month and he's still not even playing. So, yeah, I guess, it was a lot worse, that injury, than we thought, and that's unfortunate. They're still 5-1, so they're doing okay without him. But the last time I saw Bryson Barnes, didn't look that good. So that'll be interesting against USC. At least he's playing against a team where, it's not like you're facing the most ferocious defense in the world. So it'll be interesting how he's able to perform against the Trojans and how in kind that Trojans defense is able to actually try and get some stops and help out Caleb Williams, who had a bad game last week. But I'm expecting a bounce back, although Utah has given USC plenty of trouble recently and in the past. So, yeah, that one's intriguing out there in the Pac-12 because if Utah takes a second loss, you can pretty much eliminate them from the conversation, whereas with USC, obviously them taking another loss would pretty much eliminate them from the playoffs. So that one's a big game. And then what was the other ones on there? Tennessee, Bama. I mean, Joe Milton versus Jalen Milroe seems to be the big kind of headline for that game. Who outperforms or outduels the other? Penn State, Ohio State. That's a playoff potential eliminator and a big game in the Big Ten championship race, and one where I know a lot of people are kind of, tussling with which direction to go there. It's Penn State's time. So it's just picking Penn State because if they don't win this time, when are they going to win, kind of a thought. And, we'll see. They can go get a win in the horseshoe. You'd see them right there in the top 5 and as a playoff, potential favorite along with Michigan in the Big Ten. So, yeah, some big games tonight.
No matter who wins that Penn State-Ohio State game, you're right. That's great. You got to win that one because then you still have to beat Michigan at some point because they're going to both play them. And, of course, there's been a kind of a topsy-turvy weekend with the allegations of sign stealing and even an assistant and analyst that was suspended by Michigan with pay under the investigation of the NCAA. Cincinnati's head coach is Scott Satterfield. His alma mater, Appalachian State. He also coached there and was 51-24. He was at Louisville, 25-24, and he's 2-4 in his first year at Cincinnati, replacing Luke Fickell, who's now at Wisconsin. His career record, 78-52, 11th year as a head coach. Now, here's an interesting note about Cincinnati's football program. Look at the names of the conferences and where they have been since they began in 1885. This is staggering. Baylor, of course, Southwest Conference, and then there was the Big 12, and maybe even back 100 years ago, something different. But look at how many times they've bounced around from an independent to the Ohio Athletic, to the Buckeye Athletic, to an independent, to Mid-American, independent, Missouri Valley, independent. Now look at 1983. They dropped to a Division I AA independent because their average attendance at the time dropped below $20,000 fans per game. They were relegated to Division I AA. Then they came back. They, of course, were in the playoffs just 2 years ago. Conference USA, Big East, American, and now just started their first year in the Big 12.
Yeah, they had a lot of patches on that jacket. If they were collecting them the Cincinnati was one of the ones, because the Big East was a power conference when it broke up. And Cincinnati didn't get a spot like West Virginia did in the Big 12 or Louisville did in the ACC. And so they were kind of left out, in the wilderness in the group of 5 and got their spot. I still keep going back to, Darby mentioning that in 2021, both these teams were literally on top of the world when it came to how their fans felt about them. And that feels now probably for both of them like it was 15 years ago.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does. But at least Cincinnati has an excuse. They moved up a league. They moved up to a much tougher league. They lost their head coach to Wisconsin. That's the big difference for them. They lost a bunch of players off that team. Now, that's the only thing Baylor has in common with them. The head coach is still the same. The league's still the same. The only difference is they don't have Jalen Petrie and Terrell Bernard, much like Cincinnati doesn't have Luke Fickell and Desmond Ridder and Sauce Gardner and guys like that. But, Cincinnati's got a reason why they're going through a transition year. I think the question is just how much of a transition are you expecting this to be? Is this a lengthy process, or is this something where they just take their lumps in year one and then they regroup and they're right back in the mix starting next year? But they're still in search of that first Big 12 win, and I think that based on the noise coming out of there, as unimpressed as they've been with their squad, that they feel like there's an equally unimpressive squad rolling into town that is ripe for the picking for that first Big 12 win. So we'll see if Baylor can derail those plans. But, yeah, they both have fallen a bit from their peaks a couple of years ago.
All right, so we will hear from Garrett Ross. You're right, Craig. Each of them look at this game and go, we can get back on track or at least get ourselves a win, which they haven't had but just 2 each. Garrett's keys to the game, Dave Aranda on during the off week, was there any changes as far as how they went about their business with what they're going to do, or even the possibility of thinking about what the coaching staff and where they would be? And on top of that, we'll hear from former Baylor defensive coordinator Phil Bennett and his thoughts about what he has seen through Baylor and what, as a coach for a long, long time, do you do, or what can you get accomplished during the off week? This is KWTX and 365 Sports and Game Day Live.
Cars priced right both day and night. At Richard Car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. At Richard Car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. At Richard Car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. At Richard Car in Waco, Texas.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Edward Jones financial advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? Invest with Edward Jones financial advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, who invest their time and experience back to you and your money. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Contact Ben Erlinson at 254-759-8533, Chuck Verno at 720 North 64th Street, Brad Wilson's location at 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, proud sponsors of 365 Sports. Edward Jones, making sense of investing, member SIPC.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Game Day Live on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. TFNB, your bank for life. Three Nations Brewing Company. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness. Edward Jones Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Chuck Furno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott. And Bubba's 33.
What up, everybody? Welcome back into Game Day Live. I'm Garrett Ross with today's Keys to the Game presented by Richer Car Motors. Our first key this week is going to be make Emory Jones throw the ball, beat you through the air, and eliminate the ground game. If you look at Emory Jones traditionally throughout his career, he has struggled to throw the football, which is unfortunate for any quarterback. But at the same time, his ability to really cause havoc and wreak havoc on the ground is what makes him successful. But if you're Baylor, you've got to be able to take advantage of his inability to throw the rock. You look last week at what he was able to do against Iowa State. He was held under 100 yards through the air. He had 1 touchdown to 2 interceptions, and that's kind of the trend of Emory Jones. You get pressure on him, you eliminate his legs, and he's going to cause turnovers. He's going to throw the ball into just tight windows, and they're more liable to get picked off more times than not. Baylor's going to have to be able to use that to their advantage, take Emory Jones's legs away, and make him beat you through the air. If you're able to do that, I think Baylor could have a lot of success and capitalize on defense. Kind of hand in hand with that, our next key is going to be win the turnover battle. If you look at Baylor throughout the year, their defense has really kind of been the strength. I know there's still a lot of glaring issues there on both sides of the ball, but when you look at a guy like Caden Jenkins and what he's been able to do, you have a true playmaker there. And I think if you are able to force Emory Jones, like we said, with the first key to throw the ball, more likely than not, you're going to have plenty of opportunities, whether it's coming off of tip passes, him just losing it, just throwing erratic balls that are going to be picked off. I think Baylor has a really good chance to capitalize on that. We've seen Baylor throughout the year be able to make big plays, flip the script at times with their turnovers, really with Caden Jenkins. I just think the way this game is going to go, the skill set that Emory Jones has and his deficiencies there, it's all set up to make him throw the ball and for Baylor to take over, win the turnover battle and capitalize on that. If they're able to do that, I think they can put themselves in position to let Blake Shapen and this offense find the end zone and carry them to a victory. Finally, if you're Baylor, you have got to block and protect. This has been just a travesty. This offensive line performance this year has just been bad. I don't know if it's the skill set, the players are out of position, what it is, if it's just a chemistry issue, but Baylor has really struggled there. And it's not just like the misreads and stuff. They're getting dominated, like physically dominated. I know you've had the week off to really adjust. They've been trying to move people around on the offensive line and shake things up, but you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to block and protect because any of the offensive schemes that you've worked up this week, because you definitely had to figure out a different way than just running into a wall, they're not going to work if you can't block and you can't protect. Baylor has struggled with this all year long. If you have any hopes of salvaging the season, trying to make just even a bowl game at this point, you've got to keep Blake Shapen upright. You've got to open up holes for your running backs, and you've got to give Shapen time to throw the ball down the field. This is going to be really difficult because if you look at this Cincinnati team, the strength of their team is the front seven, especially with a guy like Dante Corleone. I think it's going to be really tall task for Baylor, but if you can't do it now, then you're not going to be able to do it for the remainder of the season, and you might as well just hang it up. That's going to do it for today's Keys to the Game. Don't go nowhere. We'll be back with more Game Day Live right after this.
Crafted for comfort, crafted for style, crafted to last. Fall is the time of year when we get cozy and comfortable. During Du Bois Furniture's Fall Savings Event, save store-wide, plus secret in-store discounts, plus special financing at Du Bois Furniture.
For over 40 years, Hope Pregnancy Centers has championed parents facing unplanned pregnancy with crucial life-affirming resources. We are looking for 350 donors at $30 monthly to provide over 2,000 free life-revealing ultrasounds to moms and dads when it's most critical. Your support of Hope shows every woman and unborn baby that they are valued and treasured by God.
At Dr. Smiley, you're always our top priority. Dr. Lee, Dr. Lim, and the friendly staff are committed to delivering exceptional and professional care in general, family, cosmetic, and emergency dental services. Get $2,699 implant, abutment, crown, 3D CBCT scan, and consultation with IV sedation available. Dr. Smiley accepts Medicaid and most dental insurance. Call Dr. Smiley today at 254-732-2606 and book your appointment now.
Fall is that time of year when we get cozy and comfortable. Now, during Du Bois Furniture's Fall Mattress Savings Event, improve the way you sleep on a new Tempur-Pedic or Sealy mattress. Plus, get special financing only at Du Bois Furniture.
Watch KWTX News at 4.
Welcome back to Game Day Live here on 365 Sports and, of course, KWTX. Earlier in the week, we had a chance as the media to catch up with Dave Aranda and ask him some questions about things that were changing during the week and what they had to be cognizant of. Also, we caught up with former Baylor defensive coordinator Phil Bennett on his thoughts about Baylor as they head into this week against Cincinnati. Here's that segment now.
All right, so Baylor with the off week, they play in Cincinnati, and Cincinnati, of course, has not won a Big 12 game. Baylor play there, and coming off the off week, just to be sure, was there any or has there been any discussion or was there any conversation about the protocol of any of the staff under Dave Aranda? Did you make any type of protocol or staff changes at all during the off week?
No. I think throughout the week, there was a lot of self-study, and so we had our defense break down and look at the offense and vice versa. And so there's, they had the majority of the week to do that. That was all kind of delivered and deciphered on Thursday, and I thought there's a lot of learnings in that, and we're really leaning into that and applying a lot of those truths, however ugly, bad or good, to help us get better. And so I think we're going to lead with, what the facts are and try to get better there.
Also, Craig does a column every Monday or whenever it comes out, the good, the bad, and the ugly. He almost referred to it that way when talking about the staff looking within itself.
Yeah, he did. And, I feel like there is just a lot of apathy right now, guys. Typically, especially coming off of an open week, you'd probably have had a bit more activity on the coach's press conference. But I know I was just kind of tuned out, honestly. And based on searching social media, maybe some of the other platforms have it differently. But based on Twitter, I think just kind of had the usual suspects tweeting out quotes here and there, but nothing, all that interesting, to be frank. And I think everything just depends on how they play from here on out, because we've heard the words. We've heard the talk, all due respect to Dave Aranda. But it's when you've seen it and you've heard it for 6 weeks, and every Saturday you go back out there and you see the same product and it hasn't really changed that much, like the words just don't matter anymore, and I think that's where we are with Dave Aranda. I think that's where we are, is the words don't mean anything unless you show people. And so it can all sound good, but until you show them, and you have an opportunity to do that this week in Cincinnati, there's not going to be many, willing to listen or believe or jump on board with you. And that's just unfortunately where they've found themselves because of the way that they've played now going on really a year at this point. Yep. And so, it's a different team, but it's the same results, if not even more frustrating in some ways. And the only cure to me is winning. I mean, that's the only thing that's going to make his press conferences more interesting, or have people buy into what he's saying or believe in what he's saying, and run with it. I think it's just, it all comes down to winning, and that's something that's been hard for them to do. And if they don't do that this Saturday, then it's only going to get that much worse, losing to an 0-3 team and giving them their first Big 12 win and all that. So, this is a big one for the Bearcats, but it's also a big one for Aranda and the Bears for sure.
All right, then there's the other question. We had Mack Rhodes on last week about his involvement in conversations with Dave Aranda, so I thought it was obvious to ask the question about those conversations that Aranda's had with Mack Rhodes. Dave, Mack Rhodes mentioned that he talks with you a lot, which is, I guess, normal for an AD and a football or any coach.
Yeah.
But he also mentioned kind of just being the eyes and the ears of what he sees. How much do you talk football with him?
A fair amount, yeah. And so I appreciate the question. And, it's whenever I talk with Mac, I think there is an unfiltered truth, and there is a sincerity and, compassion with everything. And so I take it very serious, and we try to apply whatever comes out of those conversations. And so I think sometimes when you're so locked into what you're doing, and it's good to be able to have the view, to have another view, another perspective. And so I count on Mac for that.
That's Dave Aranda from earlier today. They play Cincinnati coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, and Craig, you addressed this really well in your column, took that as Mac Rhodes is Jerry Jonesing this thing up. And even to even Jerry Jones credit, that's not really what he does. He's just a little too involved. Mac was just staying like, yeah, they have to have those conversations about, where do you think you're going? Where do you think the offense is headed? And how do you fix it? Because people ask Mac about that, and he has to be informed because we ask him about it. He can't very well be like, I don't know, guys. That's his deal. I'll talk to him in December. We'll figure it out. That's not how that job works. So, yeah, I think that, that puts a little further clarity on that situation.
Yeah, I think the boss keeps tabs on his employees, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that Mac in those conversations is keeping tabs on where things are. And I think also, you bring up the offense in particular. I mean, I think Mac just probably, like all of us, wants to know, are we going to be watching the same thing every single week the rest of the way, these next 6 games that we've been watching already? Or are y'all in the bye week and are y'all opening some things up and are y'all tweaking some things? Just tell me that you are, because God forbid that you're not. And we have to watch the same thing for 6 more games. And so that's how I took it. It was more just like, all right, wanting to know, all right, what kind of adjustments are y'all making? What areas are you focusing on? Do you think this is an issue? Is that an issue? Tell me what the issues are. And just kind of getting a summary of where things stand and where things look to be going. Not, this is what you need to run, this is what you need to highlight, here's who to throw to, here's what offensive set to get into. But everybody knew that. You know what I mean? Everybody knew that who was reading those comments or listening to those comments. And the ones who took it to the extreme of Jerry Jonesing and he's suddenly making the calls at the line of scrimmage or something, that they just were looking for a reason to pick it at Mac and the situation itself. So that's part of the deal when you're losing, man. You open yourself up to that type of criticism. But, yeah, I think that they just have constructive criticism and constructive conversations, and hopefully it turns out for the better for both of them starting this week.
There's actually a thread in Sikkim 365 Premium section that says Jerry Jones Mac Rhodes. Everybody's mad at everything. They want to blame everybody. He right now is one of those that's getting a lot of the blame. He understands where some of the things are. And it's not as if he's dictating game plan or in the film room trying to break down the offensive line scheme. He's not in the X's and O's department. He was just giving obvious feedback that anybody, a 5-year-old, could see that the obvious problems have been on the offense. And then it was this also concern about, well, why didn't he bring the defense up? Because my follow-up question was about the offense too. And so that is why he discussed the offense and only the offense at the time. Longtime college football coach, former Baylor defensive coordinator Phil Bennett, now with some true serum coming your way and our way on 365 Sports. Phil, thank you very much. So how much as a coach on staff can be accomplished? And you hear about the improvement from game 1 to maybe game 2 after you've played somebody. But what about during an off week? What do you work on during an off week? What is the protocol in your opinion?
Well, I've said this before. The thing that I've always done is you played 6 games and evaluate what you've done good, what you've done poorly, and you evaluate your players. What's your best combination? Who deserves to play? I think you look offensively, since that's a big issue, and say, these are the things we're capable of doing. This is what Blake can do. This is what we can do with our running game. There's a lot of things that you take from your statistics and said, these statistics won't lie. These are the things working for you. Now, the other thing, then packages. What's our best package? How can we get better? One of the things I know defensively, I talked to a guy that was friends with one of the guys on staff, is they want to know what can they do better on first down. First down such a big down defensively. If you let a team get second and short, second and medium, your chances of stopping them become very hard. And so those are the things you do. You evaluate yourself, and then you go out and you start working those things.
Phil, what if you can't figure out what you do well?
Well, Paul, there's things they've done well. Mm-hmm. Every game has its, obviously the negatives sometimes outweigh the positives, but you see some things and you even go back and you say, listen, this is where I know back when, and I always reflect to 2012 because we had to create some things. Mm-hmm. We said, you know what? These are what people are doing to us. We can't seem to do this the right way. Let's get some answers here. And I think that's one of the things that both sides of the ball will do and go out and practice it against each other. The other thing is it a toughness issue. One of the players, I think it was Baldwin, thought that, that they didn't think everybody was in. The mind's a powerful thing. If you challenge them mentally and physically, you can change habits. You really can. And I think I've said this before, I think there's winnable games out there that this thing can flip, but it's got to be done right.
Isn't sometimes all the most difficult, ADs, whoever, to not fire somebody and let it work itself out? Or what's the fine line there?
Well, you and I have talked about this. The ADs that really have a communication line with the coaches. One of the things that I always thought about great ADs, a guy named Joe Dean at LSU, he wanted to know your plan. And I'm sure Mac's like this, and I'm sure the AD at Oklahoma State, he might tell them, this year, it might be a journey for us to take time to take off on this. This is what we're looking at. Now, it always changes, and it can be bearable, but you're having your AD aware of your situation is invaluable. And you have to be careful not to overstate the positives or understate the negatives because you got to be truthful. Because your AD didn't want to hear you. Hey, listen, we might start off on this schedule a little bit rough, but we're going to come out of it. I think it takes an AD that has a vision, has a belief that sticks with the people. I always go back to Frank Beamer. Frank Beamer had some rough years, had a couple good years and a couple rough years. And then this guy, I remember the AD came out and said it. He goes, I just always knew that we would get this thing straightened out. And it paid off. Now, sometimes it's a fine line. Do you stay, they've got a situation here at A&M. Do you stay 6 years? What's the timeline? I don't know. But because you have to be in that circle, and those guys got to have a feel for that, and they got to see how it's run every day. How the players, you might have to make, unfortunately, we all know this, you got to make coaching staff changes sometimes to improve yourself. And we all hate it. Hell, I've been a part of it, good and bad. So that's always the things that you look at.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you very much. Phil Bennett with us every Monday.
Game Day Live, sponsored locally by TFNB, your bank for life, Central Texas Plumbing Solutions, and Centex Roof Systems.
At H-E-B, we're inspired by Mexico. The colors, the flavors, and aromas. And we want to share them with you. So we created the H-E-B Mi Tienda family of products with authentic Mexican flavors. From savory marinated meats, frijoles and queso, to tamales, soft drinks, and more. H-E-B Mi Tienda brings you the traditional flavors you love. One more reason here, everything's better.
When the sun rises over Central Texas, we know there's work to be done. So if you need to dig, haul, cut, lift, mow, or anything in between, your local Bobcat dealers in Waco and Temple have all the equipment you'll need to get the job done right. We sell, we rent, and we've got parts and service to keep you up and running, no matter where the job takes you. There's work to do. Let's get it done.
Chad Brendel again, Bearcat Journal covers Cincinnati. We've gotten to know him since all of the discussion that Cincinnati would join the Big 12. Well, that's happened. This is their first year. Chad joins us with Paul Craig. I'm David Smoak on 365 Sports. Chad, this is a game. You have Cincinnati in a little bit of a free fall. Baylor has been in one really almost since the beginning. And yet it's important, right, that somebody has to win this game?
Yeah, I mean, for Cincinnati, they started out pretty well. They stubbed their toe against Miami of Ohio, and that kind of started this current trend. The problem for Cincinnati is, even though they weren't getting wins, ultimately they were playing fairly well up until Iowa State last week. Iowa State last week was a disaster, and you can't, like, you're in a spot where you can't let that become the norm for the rest of the season. So this Baylor game is incredibly important for Scott Satterfield and company.
Chad, what do you feel that Cincinnati will lead into against the Baylor defense that's not stopped the run very much? You know, Emory Jones can be an adventure either way, and to protect him the most and have the most success moving the football.
I mean, the most effective thing they've done with consistency is run Emory Jones. Up until the Iowa State game, though, I mean, they had been averaging well over 200 yards a game on the ground. They're one of the best rush offenses in the country. So you would think there has to be a focus to get back to that, to be a team that, you know, just tries to kind of lean on you in the run game and use the pass as a supplement to the run game. Part of it against Iowa State, they were behind most of the game, so they didn't really get a chance to kind of find a groove. But, I mean, ultimately, that's been their bread and butter. They've got a couple really talented backs and a quarterback that can run. If you're playing a team that can't stop the run, probably be wise to see how much you can run the ball.
Chad, Nippert Stadium is a great environment. Does that lose any luster with the 3-game losing streak?
It hasn't so far, but it'll be interesting on Saturday. You know, people are frustrated. This is a program that hasn't lost in a pretty good stretch. So hitting a rough patch, it's going to be interesting to see. The weather will be interesting as well. It looks like the weather is going to be done. You know, there's some rain today and tomorrow. It looks like it should be done by Saturday morning, but if they're dealing with any lingering weather, like, you worry that everybody's going to be tempted to take a week off, I think, is a decent way to put it.
You mentioned the run defense, and obviously that was a big part of the hype during the offseason about the positives of what that defensive line could turn into. So you mentioned that they're kind of living up to that. What about that back seven? I mean, Baylor's a team they're talking about a lot of struggles running the football, and they're going to have to pass to run. How is Cincinnati's pass defense stacked up so far?
It is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen, guys. If you look at number of passes completed in the country, Cincinnati has allowed the third fewest pass completions in the country. Like, every game, it's like the quarterback completed 14, 12, 13, 14 passes. But they also completed 14 passes for 275 yards. So they're giving up an uncanny amount of big plays on the back end. The problem being, we knew this defensive line was very good and going to be very good stopping the run. They have not been very good getting to the quarterback. Now, I know that's something Baylor has struggled with, so that's going to be another point of contention, I think, in terms of who wins this game.
If Cincinnati can bring down the quarterback, that changes their ability to play pass defense a little bit. But as it stands, they have not given up many completions, but they have given up a ton of yards and allowed teams to be super efficient passing the ball. And that's kind of the boom or bust with a pass defense that is designed to get after the quarterback and create turnovers. Well, here's the problem, guys. They're not sacking the quarterback. They're not creating turnovers, and they are giving up big plays. So there's no boom, and there's a lot of bust in Cincinnati's pass defense. If Baylor needs to throw it 25, 30, 35 times a game, it's going to be really interesting to see how Cincinnati holds up.
If they need to do that, they probably need to pivot to it, Chad. As a matter of fact, to hear you talk and to hear us talk this week about what Baylor does well, it appears that both these teams are kind of in the same spot, facing each other, is that the one thing that each team does well, the other team doesn't stop well. So this could get really weird and interesting.
Or it could be a hell of a game.
You know what I called it last night on our podcast? I called this game the movable force against the resistible object.
Yeah. It sounds like you entering this game as someone who's covering Cincinnati, and as we have covered Baylor, we really don't know what the hell we're going to see. Either it's going to be a 17-6 game somehow, one way or the other, or it could end up being just one that is a hellacious game that's 31-28 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's interesting for me from a Cincinnati perspective, I did not see a team with a lot of fight when the going got tough against Iowa State. And coming off a 3-game losing streak, coming off a bye, like that's just not normal for here. Like, you know, the one thing that Cincinnati has been known for is go stand in the middle of the ring and trade haymakers with you. And I didn't see that last week. So it's going to be very telling the type of emotion this team plays with Saturday. Because if they come out flat again, or if, you know, one or two things go wrong for Baylor or in Baylor's favor early and they start hanging their heads, that is not a great sign for what's to come over the last 5 games for Cincinnati. I fully expect this team to come out angry, or at least I hope they will, based on that performance that they had last week. So that part's going to be interesting. I mean, we have seen in this league a couple times already this year, teams that have picked themselves up off the mat. You know, you looked at Oklahoma State early and it was like, oh my, like that's,
yep.
They might need to get rid of Gundy is what people were saying 3 weeks into the season. Texas Tech has kind of picked themselves up off the mat. It'll be interesting to see if one of these two teams uses this opportunity Saturday to kind of get things going in the opposite direction as we head down the stretch.
Hey, Chad, we appreciate you, buddy. Thank you so much, and good luck with Taylor Swift meeting your daughter, Kelsey. That's your number one target the rest of the year for Christmas. That's Chad Brindell. He's fantastic at what he does. Appreciate him. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is a premier, elite, life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes every week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, bar, silver sneakers, and more. If you haven't been to Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness lately, you're missing out on the improvements. New flooring in the weight room floor and locker rooms, new paint and mirrors added to the weight room and group exercise room, and many new machines have been added and arriving constantly on the weight room floor. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new ellipticals on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, Alex Box, and welcome to Nathan Roach, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. A kids club included with your membership, plus sauna, whirlpool, and tanning bed. 16 tennis courts plus a beautiful stadium court, and longtime youth tennis pro Britt Coleman and assistant junior Kenna. Adult tennis lessons and clinics with Blake, and the commitment to pickleball with 8 courts and instructor Jody Thurman. Visit the website at wacotennis.com or visit us at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco. Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Game Day Live on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, TFNB, your bank for life, Three Nations Brewing Company, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, Edward Jones Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, and Bubba's 33.
Appreciate your time this morning. Baylor and Cincinnati on ESPN Plus a little bit after 11 o'clock. The Penn State-Ohio State game getting a lot of attention, as it should nationally, among some others. Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina, and I'm David Smoak. Garrett Ross running the mothership today for us on Game Day Live. So, when you have you break down Baylor, they can't run the ball. Maybe occasionally they have. They don't really have much of a deep threat, although Monterey Baldwin has taken a couple of passes and been able to go deep with it. The defense has had some turnovers, and yet it seems like they give up a lot of third down conversions, and they're always backwards against the chains. It's always 3rd and 7 on offense, or it's 3rd down at a yard on defense. Truly, Paul, what do you think can change by the time they lost that game against Texas Tech 2 weeks ago?
I think that they're going to have to scrap any kind of idea that the wide zone is their bread and butter this year. So they're going to have to get the ball out quickly, quick passes, short passes, yards after the catch, try to build some sort of running game. They have to make changes in the offensive line. Personnel changes in the offensive line. They absolutely have to. If they don't, it means they can't, and that means that you're going to be in for more of the same all year long. On defense, they have to find a way to make big plays because this is not a defense that's going to swallow you up and shut you down like Penn State or Ohio State can. They're going to have to be bend but don't break. And against Cincinnati in particular, the one thing that Emory Jones does consistently well is run the ball. And the one thing that Baylor seems to struggle with is quarterbacks, especially that run the ball. So they're going to have to find a way through that as well.
I'm very curious to see, what they actually look like today. 2 weeks away from that last game. A lot's happened, it seems like, and yet nothing's really changed all that much from our perspective because we haven't seen them. So, we'll know a lot, I think, with just the opening offensive drive and what that looks like. They can change the script, that's for one. The whole script of let's go 3 and out on our opening drive and punt it away right away. You can shake that up, and I think Dave Aranda referred to that when some people wanted to call it scapegoating Jeff Grimes or whatever, but you look at his play calling, and it was kind of predictive in some cases. And so I think that is something they can change up, is how they operate, where it's not – 1st down, run the ball. 2nd down, run the ball. 3rd down, it's 3rd and long. Now we have to pass the ball. Next drive, run the ball. 3rd down, pass the ball. And it was getting to kind of that point, it felt like. So that's something that you can change up. I don't know if it changes the results or not. Look, they scored 31 points against Texas State in the opener. And that's great. That if that was something that they maintained, that would have been awesome. But they scored 13 against Utah. Okay, well, Utah's got a good defense. They scored 30 against Long Island. Long Island's terrible.
Yep.
30 points is not good against Long Island. 6 against Texas. Okay, well, they're good. That's fine. 35 against UCF. How many of that was in the last quarter? Nearly all of it was in the last quarter. And then 14 points against Texas Tech. So they've gone backwards on offense, and some of it's been the opponent. But, you just chalk up all of that. And for, a thought in some people's minds that they would be like a top 30, top 25 type offense, they're nowhere close. They can barely crack 20 points on a regular basis at this point. So, I think the play calling is something you can change, and just the players themselves just have to be better. I think some other receiver not named Monterey Baldwin's got to take over a game, make some plays.
Have somebody miss a tackle.
Right, but if you throw it up in the end zone, hey, Keytron Jackson, jump up and rip the ball away from the defender. Don't let the guy out-muscle you. So those are the types of things that I think just come down to individual play, and I think that would be the big change that could be sweeping and change results more so than, what technically they did and worked on in a practice. At some point, and I think we were at this point a couple of weeks ago, but now we're back here again, players just have to make plays. And so what happened? How did they beat UCF? Was that great play calling? No, it was Caden Jenkins making a play. It was, Richard Reese or whoever is making plays, getting to the quarterback and making a play that strung together and then made other plays.
Yep.
And that's what they have to do ultimately. It's not going to be just a matter of scripting out drives better. You got to actually execute, and the execution, I think, is where they've lacked the most. So that's what can improve.
Here's some evidence. Baylor is averaging 121 yards a game on the ground. And I sometimes wonder where they get to that. A couple of games help prop that up. They're giving up 63 more yards on the ground than they are getting. In the passing game, they're averaging 280 a game. A lot of that just seems to be just kind of there, although there has been the connection with Monterey Baldwin, but nothing is consistent.
Well, the problem is you get 70 yards and then you kick a field goal. So you throw for 280 and you get 9 points out of it. So, 280, that's fine. The running numbers stink, but the thing is, you're supposed to be a running team, and so that's
especially
even
for
worse.
what they're doing.
Yeah.
If your core is you're the reliable, violent offense, then
it's not reliable. It hasn't been violent, and it hasn't been much of an offense.
Offensive. It's exactly. So you have all those things. It's not any of those three. It doesn't check any of the boxes. Reliable, violent offense means that you should be averaging close to 200 yards rushing a game. That's what they want to do. I would think, in the perfect scenario, it's 400 yards total offense, 200 and 200, and you are in the fourth quarter lowering the boom with your running backs, and they're not doing that because in the fourth quarter, it's a free-for-all because you got to figure it out.
All right, they have allowed 24 touchdowns to 13. That's never good. And they also have attempted 14 field goals, hit 11, while the opponents have only hit 4 of 8, but they haven't had to kick that many field goals because they're scoring touchdowns. All right, when we come back, we're going to hear from J.J. Joe, former Baylor quarterback and the color analyst with Baylor Radio. Craig?
Yeah, I want to point out one other thing that we're talking about here before we go. So Blake Shapen threw for 324 yards last game. That's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
324 yards. They scored 14 points off 324 yards passing. And do you realize that of those 14 points, that only half that was a touchdown? It was a touchdown, and then there was a couple of field goals off a 300-plus passing performance. So that's when you say, they're averaging 280 in the air. Yeah, you're not running the ball. That's part of it. But 280 in the air, it's coming up empty.
It didn't seem like he threw for that much either. Yeah, you're right. You throw for 300 yards, usually that means you're dictating or you're coming from behind and you're having to, which is the case. But it doesn't seem like they were getting that many yards. They have got to run the football. They have got to get ahead of the chains and also the sticks on first down. But that has been a problem. When we come back, J.J. Joe, his thoughts about this week with Baylor and Cincinnati. Game Day Live on 365 Sports and KWTX.
Central Texas Plumbing Solution is the team you can count on to go the extra mile and resolve your plumbing problems quickly and thoroughly, getting it done right the first time. So when you need some help before the big game, call Central Texas Plumbing Solutions.
Shelley's business needs to be more efficient, and she heard hybrid meeting would help. She called Asbel Electronics, and we took her vision and created a space that was easy to use and maximized live interaction in the office while fully interacting with customers and remote workers. Pastor Dave wanted to live stream his Sunday services, so he called Asbel Electronics. We implemented technologies that brought the in-church experience to the living room while minimizing volunteers' workflow. Let us make your vision come true. Contact Asbel Electronics for all your professional audio-visual needs.
Stay at home with your hometown roofers. Syntex Roof Systems, we're here for you.
Hi, I'm John Crowder, pastor of First Baptist Church in West. When we needed some roofing done, we called Syntex Roof Systems, and they came in, took care of us quickly and professionally. Looks great, and we're really proud of it. Thanks for all your help.
Thank you, brother.
Stay at home with your hometown roofers. Syntex Roof Systems, we're here for you.
Central Texas Plumbing Solution is the team you can count on to go the extra mile and resolve your plumbing problems quickly and thoroughly, getting it done right the first time. So when you need some help before the big game, call Central Texas Plumbing Solutions.
KWTX News 10 weeknights.
Baylor color analyst and former Baylor quarterback J.J. Joe with us on Mondays at 4:45, joins us on 365 Sports. J.J., how much work can actually be done, and what is most of the focus when a team, especially right in the middle of the year, has an off week?
Hey, guys, it's good to talk to you. Hey, there's only a little bit you can do, but I think really what I found out is during those off weeks, you do focus a ton on yourself, and it gives coaches more time to, I think, do an evaluation of the things that they need to cut and the things that they can build on. And I think that's really one of the most beneficial things that comes from the off week, that then coach comes back to really not that first week that you're off, but that next week when you're in game preparation, and you can tell a lot of times there's a difference. Kind of, okay, we're going to focus on these things, guys. This is what we've done well. And then we're going to minimize or stop doing these things. So, it's not a ton, but I think enough focus on yourself and what you do well is what comes along with that self-audit.
JJ, how much time does it take, though, to install that stuff? Do they have, even with a total week off, do they have enough time to find something that works and throw it in there?
Well, I think the big thing is you don't re-engineer an offense, of course, in 2 weeks, but the other interesting thing is if you look at what Baylor does or what some teams do, they have different concepts. Like even though we're an RVO offense, a lot of times you'll look out there and there's a spread looking concept, right? We just don't do it a lot. There's a spread looking set. We usually have a tight end, but if you think about Brow's offense at the end, there's a lot of really what we would call, I think it was, that personnel with one tight end, 11 personnel. I'm sorry. So you have those concepts of those formations in. You may just add to the playbook, right? Hey, we're better out of these sets, and we run these 4 plays. Well, we're going to make it 6 plays, 7 plays, 8 plays. We're going to motion to this set. So you realize really quickly that we have these different sets that we have and different structures already built into our offense. We just don't emphasize them. Well, maybe we need to emphasize them a little bit more going forward than we have. That's what I mean by being able to kind of add to some of the areas that maybe you haven't really focused on the last several weeks.
JJ, how much of just getting a mental break do you think is important for this team? I know there's times when, especially if you're winning, you just want to keep going, right? You don't want to lose the magic, if you will. But given their struggles, did it come at the right time, that this little bit of a break, and is there a way that just kind of resets and recharges everybody?
I hope it came at the perfect time. I'm telling you, man. Craig, because the big thing for me is that when things are not going your way, and if you've been going since early August, it does help to get just 2 days. Being in it before, you just don't have any days off, man. It's like every day is something associated with football. Now, I know they've changed the schedules now. I think they try to give the gentleman a day off, but I just remember saying sometimes during the season when you get about 6-7 weeks in, man, I just wish they just give me a day. I don't have to come to the stadium for a day. So
that'll help a ton. They get to go home, see family, go to the high school, and come back hopefully a little bit fresher mentally and ready kind of really to hone in. Because I tell you, I just think that when you're 2-4, man, that is not a fun time to be kind of a player on that team. Just think like, man, I like being around my buddies, but we're 2-4. And I'm hoping they kind of kick-start it from here on out against a tough Cincinnati defense.
Do you see any way, or with the offensive line has struggled from day one this season, do you see anything they could actually do with the offensive line? Mateos has done some good stuff over his career, but obviously this has been a really tough year.
Yeah, I think there are some things you can do. I think we saw it. I know people will say, well, yeah, JJ, the Utah game was 4, 5, 6 weeks ago. We haven't seen that again. I think we've seen glimpses. I'm sorry. Can't speak right now. I think this group of gentlemen, the group of linemen that we have trouble with the wide zone blocking scheme, especially if a team is going to get really aggressive playing upfield on us. And either we have some guys maybe weren't as athletic as we had in the past, maybe it's not as experienced as we had in the past because we had really good lines for those first couple of years, or it just simply could be they just don't have that same ability. Then we talked about it last week, guys. I mean, I watched the Texas Tech team have linemen that I'm not saying they weren't good, but they didn't ask them to do a lot of stuff for their runners to get some yards. So I think you may have to evaluate that.
JJ, how much knowledge do you have of the Bearcats, the Big 12 newcomer? I know it's a first-time ever matchup. These two schools have not played in football, but have you been able to watch Emory Jones or any of what they've got going on?
I have actually watched them last weekend. I said, this is a great game to watch since our next two opponents are playing, right? So I could do some scouting right away. So, I'm very impressed by the defense. I think offensively they kind of struggle like they're showing struggles like we're showing. I mean, they're more of a spread team, of course, relying on the quarterback to make some plays, with his feet and also on the move, which is a little different than us. We don't want Blake to move too much, just enough. But their defense, I thought defensively though, although I think Iowa State moved the ball on them a little bit better than I thought they would. I like Cincinnati. So I think it's going to be interesting. This is a game I believe Baylor has to be able to try to find a way to win, even if it's on the road, because I think Cincinnati struggles with the same things we struggle with. But I'm hoping the difference will be is that, I think from a quarterback standpoint, our guys are a little bit more prepared to play consistently at a high level. And that's kind of how I look at it. Is like if all things being equal, I'm looking for my quarterback to kind of take me through. So I mean, the Bearcats will be a tough out just simply because they can play solid defense.
JJ, thank you as always for your time on Mondays. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
JJ Joe, Baylor radio color analyst with us on Mondays.
Game Day Live, sponsored locally by TFNB, your bank for life, Central Texas Plumbing Solutions, and Centex Roof Systems.
Since moving to Texas, I've learned that Texans love ordering food with Favor, the restaurant delivery app that's part of HEB. And when football's on, my neighborhood turns into a ghost town.
It's quiet around here, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, Pete, the game's on.
Save me a nacho.
Favor. Now Texas orders in. Download now to get $0 delivery fees your first 4 weeks.
For over 40 years, Hope Pregnancy Centers has championed parents facing unplanned pregnancy with crucial life-affirming resources. We are looking for 350 donors at $30 monthly to provide over 2,000 free life-revealing ultrasounds to moms and dads when it's most critical. Your support of Hope shows every woman and unborn baby that they are valued and treasured by God.
Carol Weaver here from Waco Mattress Center, your local mattress experts. Our team prides itself on saying no. No fine print, no gimmicks, no hidden costs, no long waits. Our experts will help you find the right mattress that fits your needs. We make you 2 promises. We won't sell you a mattress we wouldn't sleep on, and order by 3, get same-day delivery. You have plenty of options to shop, but why waste your time? Come see us at Waco Mattress Center. Thank you for your business.
David Smoak with Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina. This is Game Day Live. We go back to Cincinnati, Ohio, Nippert Stadium, and Darby Brown joins us yet again, she started off the show with us earlier today. Darby, we've tried to discuss what could go differently, and it's like, and Craig has mentioned this, like taking crazy pills because nothing seems to change. What do you think, honestly, Baylor can do differently, or do they have the people to do anything differently?
I just think about that game we saw in Orlando, right? The ending of that game. That group put together that sort of finish. They rallied when they were down 35-7, and they were able to get a win, playing up-tempo with their offense, just doing everything right there to pull away with a win out of Orlando. So, you look at that segment alone, that segment of the season, they are capable of some good things. So it's just a matter of trying to figure out how to play a complete game with those elements. But, that's the same team that's out here today. So we have some hope that they can dig deep there and find something that they did out there in Orlando, once again on the road here in Cincinnati.
Yeah, Darby, I think we will, at least early on, maybe see them run some tempo early in the game, which they haven't before.
Right, yeah. I think in the Texas Tech game, that first couple drives, we saw a little tempo. And I felt like, this is a good sign. It didn't really work necessarily. But I think that there was some different things they were doing. And so, hopefully they can try to kind of put some of that on the field today. And a lot of that, I think, does come down to how much time Blake Shapen is getting, the protection with the O-line, things like that. So, it all kind of starts up front, and then that develops how they can develop how they like to with the tempo. But, Blake's at his best when he's playing fast and kind of freer. So if they can try to figure that out, that's going to put a better product in.
Darby, a really nice backdrop as seeing everybody warming up and all of that. Looks like a pretty day there in Cincinnati. Can you kind of set the scene for us?
Yeah, it's a beautiful day. The sun is out. It's pretty warm, honestly. I'm kind of wishing I wasn't even wearing a thick sweater, but it was chilly this morning, so you got to prepare for all the layers here. But no, it's a beautiful day. Yeah, the Baylor players are warming up out here on the field. They're dressed all white, which is always a good look. And the student section is filling in. There's not a big crowd just yet. But on a beautiful day, I know it's also their family weekend. You have to imagine they're out kind of enjoying themselves outside the stadium and they'll be making their way in. But it's a nice one here. It's a good stadium, good scene. And, the fall game day vibes are high right now.
It's 2 road games and 2 parents' weekends for Baylor, by the way, because UCF was the same. Darby, what's your grade on Skyline Chili? We have to know.
Oh, the chili. So I'm not a huge, I don't know. I think it's strange. I was just kind of like, it's sweet. It's like sweet spaghetti in a way. I don't know. It's not for me. So I don't think I'll probably ever have it again. But I did try it.
Oh my God. We're going to put this up on social media and blast it out but no, I've had it before one time when I stopped there at an airport. And I'm glad I had it. I'm glad I have it, but I'm not going to go back there to do it again. Darby, you've been around the team. Last thing, do you feel like they can win this game? Not feel like they can win this game. Do they win this game today?
I think they do. I think they figure out a way to beat a team that's struggling this year and come away with a win. And I think that they need it, they want it, and I do think they have the talent to do it. I do think they come away with a win.
Thank you, Darby. Appreciate your time. Great stuff. Great look from Nippert Stadium, the 5th oldest college football stadium in America. Cincinnati, 2-4. Baylor at 2-4. One note about the Baylor running game that we said that's supposed to be their bread and butter. It has really not been that way except the fourth quarter against UCF. Cincinnati, despite all their problems, they are 17th overall in the country in rushing defense, allowing only 104.2 yards per game and allowing less than 3.3 yards per carry. So something has to give if Baylor, if that's going to be the game they get back on track today, rushing the football, which I don't know if it is, it's going to be hard to do that against a team that does not give up much at all on the ground.
Or you're going to have to throw like you did last time against Texas Tech, but actually make it worthwhile and make it amount to points and make it amount to something other than just really empty yardage in the long run. I mean, I mentioned the 300 plus that Blake Shapen had. the one touchdown was a 70-yard score by Monterey Baldwin. You got to do more than that if the run game's not working, but hopefully the run game's working.
We'll come back with our predictions and our final thoughts. Game Day Live on KWTX and 365 Sports.
Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? Invest with Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, who invest their time and experience back to you and your money. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Contact Ben Erlinson at 254-759-8533, Chuck Verno at 720 North 64th Street, Brad Wilson's location at 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, proud sponsors of 365 Sports. Edward Jones, making sense of investing, member SIPC.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is a premier elite life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes every week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, bar, silver sneakers, and more. If you haven't been to Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness lately, you're missing out on the improvements. New flooring in the weight room floor and locker rooms, new paint and mirrors added to the weight room and group exercise room, and many new machines have been added and arriving constantly on the weight room floor. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new ellipticals on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, Alex Box, and welcome to Nathan Roach, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. A kids club included with your membership, plus sauna, whirlpool, and tanning bed. 16 tennis courts plus a beautiful stadium court, and longtime youth tennis pro Britt Coleman and assistant junior Kenna. Adult tennis lessons and clinics with Blake, and the commitment to pickleball with 8 courts and instructor Jody Thurman. Visit the website at wacotennis.com or visit us at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Game Day Live on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, TFNB, your bank for life, 3 Nations Brewing Company, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, Edward Jones Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, and Bubba's 33.
Looking at Baylor and Cincinnati, the tail of the tape again, both 2-4. The quarterback play, Craig has brought up Blake Shapen, 920 yards passing. Of course, he missed a few games with an injury, 4 touchdowns. Emory Jones has thrown for 1,322 yards, 11 scores, but has been intercepted 8 times. Baylor's leading rusher, which this could have been like a single game at one point last year. Not often, but Richard Reese has 229 yards on the ground for a team that's supposed to be the personality of running the football. That's shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other shocking stat to me from this week was the fact that, and I know Shapen missed time, but he has 5 touchdown passes, and 2 of those are by a wide receiver, and they're both named Monterey Baldwin, and the other 3 are Drake Dabney, the tight end. That's what I was talking about earlier with receivers, players making plays. You need Keytron Jackson jump up and grab the ball out of the air, rip it away from a guy.
The 50,
if not you,
balls,
somebody else do that. I think would be huge for them today. And hopefully Dominic Richardson's healthier, with the bye week, and he can contribute a bit more than when he got dinged up, and they can get more of the running game going and a three-headed monster, so to speak.
Go ahead, Paul.
They all, like, if they had the offensive line, they'd have the guys to run the wishbone for sure, because they've got three different kind of running backs in Pendergrass, Reese, and Richardson. But they've got to just, like, somebody's got to step up. Craig, you're right. You have to, like, just. Keytron Jackson, they brought you in here to go get the ball, so go get it. Like, just go get it. And
someone's got to step up. But let's be honest. Have we really seen Caden Jenkins, Monterey Baldwin, and Shapen? Has anyone else stepped up?
No, and it's
Dabney.
Dabney. Yeah, it's been a problem. And look, for Blake Shapen, they have to make changes in the offensive line, because the offense so far has been run play, oh crap, Blake got hit. Like, that's and even if he gets the pass off, he's still getting pressured and hit way, way, way too much, and it's not sustainable. So the one thing that it's weird that Baylor fans really focused on and were drilling in on was, I don't know, Blake Shapen's the guy. Sawyer Robertson should be the quarterback and all of this. And Blake Shapen, when he has played, has been their brightest spot by a long shot.
Despite getting hammered.
But despite getting hammered. So whatever work that the offensive staff did on Blake Shapen appears to have worked. It's just it didn't everywhere else. And that's what is got to be maddening for fans, because they're just so uneven and they can't do anything consistent.
Now, there's also, because you don't have time to throw it, and if your receivers aren't getting separation, and Monterey Baldwin, a couple of his longer throws have been like shorter passes that he turned into long throws, nice throws by Shapen, is that it would be nice just to see a ball thrown 10, 12, 15 yards down the field that's just a crisp route and a nice throw and protection to get it there. It'd be like, oh, my God, they just did that. All right, I'm going to ask this question. Cincinnati today, if Baylor can win the game, that's 50-50. Iowa State, who's turned the corner with Matt Campbell this year with a very young team at home. Houston at home. Is there a chance we look at this in 3 weeks, and it doesn't mean it by any means erases the hickeys and the marks and the bumps and the bruises? Do you have any faith at all they could win 2 of those 3, much less all 3 in a row?
No. I don't right now. They've got to win this one today. And look, if both teams are like, one of these teams is going to come out here with a W, and hopefully for whoever it is, they can build some momentum off of it. But this might be, once again, for each of them, because they're both not very good, just a moment in time that they were kind of lucky enough to be playing each other.
Yeah,
kind of like Baylor was lucky enough to be playing a UCF team that's not very good on defense when they did.
Yeah, I don't like their chances against Iowa State whatsoever, based on what we've seen so far. I think they can beat Houston, though. Yeah. I think they can beat Cincinnati. Yeah. Do I have faith that they're going to? No, I'm not going to, at this point, give them the benefit of the doubt. But can they win those games? Yeah, I think they can beat Iowa State if things were to fall right. But I think that's only if they win today.
All right, Craig, give me your prediction today.
I'm taking Cincinnati in a close, low-scoring type of a game. 27, 24, 24-20, something along those lines. I'm going Bearcats at home, getting their first Big 12 win.
Paul?
I'll agree with Craig. Close game. I have not seen enough consistency from Baylor. Plus, I think that Scott Satterfield leans into Emory Jones toting the rock a little bit more because that's what he does really well, and Cincinnati wins the game.
I have Baylor winning at 27-23, and I don't know how. I really don't, and I'm not just picking it because we're doing a Baylor pregame show. We do a college football show, but I say 27-23, but I really don't know how they get there. Garrett Ross, thank you for your time. Did you have a prediction? I know you got to go.
Cincinnati 31, Baylor 27.
All right, thank you to Darby Brown. Thank you to everybody at KWTX. Thanks to our sponsors, and thanks to you. I'm David Smoak. Good morning on Game Day Live.
Central Texas Plumbing Solution is the team you can count on to go the extra mile and resolve your plumbing problems quickly and thoroughly, getting it done right the first time. So when you need some help before the big game, call Central Texas Plumbing Solutions.
I don't know what any of this stuff is.
Is the Jeep not starting?
Token, can you please come help?
Y'all
call for a tow?
Yes.
Y'all call for a tow?
Yes.
Call Tow King 24 hours a day for all your emergency roadside needs.
I've known Tony now for about 9 years, which is about the time I've been a minister here at the Church of Christ in Groesbeck. I've known his son for a while, but I did not know his son was now moving into the business with him. And it was great interacting with him.